Runners waste hundreds and sometimes thousands of dollars on gear that they hope will make them faster. Look, I get it. I want to get faster too. But also, a bunch of companies know that as well. But here's the truth. Most of that stuff doesn't even work. Here are 5 running trends that are draining your wallet and what you can do instead. And the last one is going to surprise you. Trust me. Social media premium app subscriptions. Things like Strava purport that they have all this type of data that can help you with your training and how to build it and all sorts of stuff. And even Garmin has their suggested workouts. But compared to the cost, what's the value in this really? Look, with things like Strava, we can take pieces of that data from the free version that can be just as valuable. Because in the premium versions, they talk about things like giving you a VO2 max and what your heart rate zone is and what the gap is. But you know what? Throw all that stuff away. Because you know what actually is a better measurement of how to get faster and what to do to improve? Go by feeling instead. There's so much written about what a pace should feel like. And that's going to be way more valuable than some heart rate zone that you need to buy a heart rate monitor or buy an app subscription. And if you're focusing on the consistency of your training, you're going to get to where you want to go. It's good to have some of that data to understand hey, maybe race plans need to be adjusted, but that can just come from I don't know, your average mile and what you did in a particular mile, and not necessarily from an app that gets you too much data. And I know I harped on it, but watches also give you prediction time. So does that actually work, and is that valuable? So I know that Garmin has all this stuff on their watches. Tracking progress, all sorts of stuff. And I don't want to hate on Garmin too much because, well, I have a Garmin watch and I like it. But I don't like it because of the VO2 max data. I like it because it tells me how far I've gone and gives me a map of my routes. And generally how fast I run each mile. That's it. Look, I heard something really good that describes fitness watches really well. Fitness watches are basically expensive Tamagotchis. But the stupid animal you're trying to keep alive is yourself. Look, these kind of things, they overcomplicate training. And they make it seem like it's this mystery math problem that you gotta solve. When in reality, it's about your body. And your body doesn't care about a lot of these fancy metrics. Effort, consistency, and time that you spend running actually matter more. And to be honest, for 99% of runners, having just a simple watch or using your phone as a timer is totally enough, because in the end, a $500 watch isn't going to make you faster, but your training will. But even though these metrics aren't scientifically proven to make you faster, what about some other things like compression gear? Doesn't that help with injury prevention and things like that? Look, I've seen all of the stuff of compression gear and arm sleeves and all this stuff. If you're having issues with injury, talk to your doctor and talk to a medical professional. Don't just buy compression gear because it looks cool or it's something you read from somebody on Reddit. This stuff is marketed as injury prevention, but to be honest, most of the actual evidence we have doesn't really suggest that. Sometimes the gear really matters. Getting a new shoe generally is going to be better than wearing a really old shoe because of things like the cushion and stuff like that. And if I was coaching and I had an athlete who was hurt, I would almost always recommend on getting a new shoe, especially if it was old. But in the end, your gear is only going to help you so much. What's going to help you more is what you're doing for injury prevention exercises. Doing things like rolling out your muscles or stretching after a workout or eating right or getting enough sleep. These are going to be injury prevention things that are going to matter a lot more than wearing a freaking arm sleeve. But look, I don't want to totally disparage on this stuff because it's all about you, right? And it's all about what you like. So if you wear this stuff and it helps you get into that zone of I'm racing now or I'm doing a hard workout, or if it makes you get pumped up, fine, go right ahead. But don't fool yourself into thinking that this stuff is just magically going to stop you from getting hurt. And I know I mentioned shoes, and runners like to spend the most time on shoes. However, this other trend has to do with it, and it's custom running shoes. So a lot of these shoe brands like to market and convince runners that the expensive custom shoe is the way to go. You're overpronating, you're underpronating. Now, again, I'm not a doctor, so always talk to your doctor or your sports science doctor. But in general, the overpronation, underpronation, it's almost like overemphasized. Our bodies, for the most part, can run. And so getting just a typical trainer is going to be fine. And to be honest, find a shoe that feels comfortable. Don't worry about anything else. Don't worry about the overpronation, underpronation. Don't worry about the flat-footed stuff. Find something that is comfortable for you. And if it involves one of those shoes, great, go for it. But don't feel like you absolutely have to if you don't need it. And I've talked a lot about gear so far, watches, shoes, arm sleeves, that kind of stuff. But there's another type of thing that gets marketed a lot and I've seen all over the freaking place. Can someone tell me what the deal is with these carb-dense gobs of gloop? Like, what the hell is up with those things? Here's what I can tell. They taste gross. They look gross, but they're marketed as some sort of like magical carb-dense thing. I have a better idea. Know what I'd rather eat if I want some dense carbs? I'd eat some Ritz crackers. Eat some Cheerios. Maybe have like whole wheat bread with peanut butter. Because the reality is, normal whole type foods, regular food you have in your fridge and pantries, work out just as well as those goops. You know, having things like a banana or honey or dates, having like a combination of like banana plus honey plus dates, that's a great little snack for you. And you don't need to force yourself to eat some sort of glop. Please test this stuff out, but don't feel like you need to drop a bunch of money on this. I wish somebody had come to me and told me all this stuff and more things when I was younger. And I actually have some tips on how to get faster that I wish I knew when I was in my 20s. And you can check that video up right up here.